for us, the higher purpose again, somewhere between nation building and pure architecture and team building. I think those are the three things that really work for us.
We thought, yeah, TCS हमें नहीं लेता ना, let's make our own TCS.
The more tourism means more construction. Our construction practices aren't very sustainable.
A building eventually is made by people for people. You have to be rooted in the context.
Those pivotal opportunities would not have happened if we had judged the assignment that we were tasked to do.
So welcome to another episode of Europe Beyond Blueprints. Today we are at the DFI office in Greater Kailash in New Delhi. And with me, we have Goonmeet Singh Chauhan, Mr. Anand, architect Anand Sharma, and architect Anoj Tevatia. So welcome to the program, and it's a pleasure to have all three of you here today. My first thing to the three of you is that all three of you met in IIT Kharagpur. So ऐसा क्या आपको एक दूसरे में इतना अच्छा लगा कि तब से लेके अब तक you are in partnership, and how did that relationship begin? And whoever wants to go for this, please.
एक दूसरे में ऐसा कुछ खास अच्छा नहीं लगा. हमारा बैच बड़ा छोटा था, तो हम लोगों का ना इंटरेक्शन बड़ा स्ट्रांग होता था. और मेरे ख्याल से everything in life happens for a reason. Now after 30 years of practice, I think that is something that, and 50 years of life, we were in our final years of training, and the overall batch was very, very close knit. But we found training in Delhi, he found training in Ahmedabad, and we came back for our trainings, and we were sipping chai in our open air theatre. We were more outside the classroom than in the classroom, and we were discussing भाई अब क्या करना है. तो लगा भाई ऐसा है, आर्किटेक्ट्स हैं, आर्किटेक्ट प्रोफेशन बड़ा चैलेंजिंग और डिमांडिंग तब भी था, अब थोड़ा कम है मेरे हिसाब से, पर तब तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा था. भी ऐसा करते हैं, प्रैक्टिस कर लेते हैं. दैट इज़ ऑल एट हैपेंड. और मेरे ख्याल से जो हार्ड वर्क है वो साथ मिलने में नहीं है, साथ रहने में. तो मेरे ख्याल से जो वो क्रेडिट है वो एक दूसरे को एम्बोल्डन करते हुए, एम्पावर करते हुए, एक दूसरे से पावर लेते हुए, एक दूसरे से सपोर्ट लेते हुए हम लोगों की जर्नी शुरू हुई. और इंशाल्लाह गॉड विलिंग, भगवान की दया से वैसी की वैसी चल रही है. और शायद
I think campus life जो होती है ना, that is where you make the lifelong bondings. I think best of the friends which you made and which you carry all your life is once you made during your school time or your college time. तो हमारे साथ में भी ऐसी था. I think college में we were together and there was no plan that we will do this, but we were there together, we enjoyed together, and we thought if we have to start a practice, then it's good to start it together. और I think शुरू ऐसे हुआ था, हम लोग ओपन एयर थिएटर, जो आनंद बता रहे हैं, हम ओपन एयर थिएटर में बैठे हुए थे, चाय पी रहे थे. कैंपस रिक्रूटमेंट चल रही थी बाकी के कॉलेजेस, बाकी के डिपार्टमेंट्स की. इन्फोसिस आ रहा है, TCS आ रहा है, और
टाटा स्टील आ रहा है,
वो सब उस सारे डिपार्टमेंट्स के फाइनल इयर्स को लेकर जा रहे थे. और हम लोग आर्किटेक्ट्स,
हमें कोई नहीं पूछता
भाई कोई तो आ जाए. तो हमें लगा हम क्या करें. सो वी थॉट, वी हैड प्लान्स टू डू इट टुगेदर. वी थॉट यार TCS हमें नहीं लेता ना, लेट्स मेक आवर ओन TCS. सो वी स्टार्टेड अ कंपनी, तेवातिया, चौहान एंड शर्मा, TCS. सो दैट वाज जस्ट आउट ऑफ फन. चाय पीते हुए, सुट्टा मारते हुए, तो अपनी TCS बनाते हैं. That was the beginning point. Then I think it was destiny which made us do it.
So how did you transition from a TCS to a DFI?
TCS, I think we were very, very prominent, and we are number one architect in residential architecture. Plotted ones. Any architect who start their practice, they start with normally a small plotted ones or an interior designer kind of things. So we also started like that, and we became a large organization in plotted residential architecture. At one point of time, we used to do 100 houses, 100 residences at one time. We were a good name. And when we got our very first project, for large format project, we told the developer that put our name also in your brochures and communication marketing material. They agreed to it. But finally, when the brochure came out, our name was not there. Me and Anand, we went there, asked the guy that you promised us that our name will also be there. He said, see, you are a very big name in a residential architecture, but my marketing team is saying that they are not into large format projects. So it can go negative. We came back, we thought, yeah, we did such a good job. And even after that, it's only because we are popular in one segment that is stopping us to grow in another segment. So then we discussed, let's change the format, let's change the name, format, skill sets of the people, let's make another company. So for good time period, we had two companies. One is TCS Architects, that was Tevatia, Chauhan, Sharma Architects, and second was this DFI Architects, Design Forum International. We wanted to bring the technology, the know-how, the knowledge, which is being practiced on a global format. So that's why the name also inspired Design Forum International. Wanted to make this as a forum, a platform where people come and perform. That's what Anand coined the idea of a people first. So this was the transition from TCS to DFI and the name of.
The other thing was most architectural practices then were people driven, right? Name driven. It was basically a person, Hafiz contract, right? Convin then associate, CP Kukureja. And these are big names, right? Respected names. We were also Tevatia, Chauhan and Sharma. In fact, there is a small story of Tevatia, Chauhan and Sharma also, which is. So, there was this Stein, Doshi and Bhalla, right? So, Joseph Allen Stein, B.V. Doshi, everybody. And a J.R. Bhalla, who was primarily a structural consultant, but these guys together used to practice. They had done some very fantastic, beautiful projects together. And when the time came for us to choose a name, so we tried to figure out that, okay, so 3 names and 3 names, right? So what does Bhalla rhyme with? So Bhalla rhymes with Sharma. So Sharma came the last. So Tevatia, Chauhan and Sharma is essentially, the same. उस तर्ज में नाम रख दिया जिस नाम में स्टाइन दोषी और भल्ला था. नाम पहला वाला तो ऐसे पड़ा.
It's very interesting. Coming back to when you all left college together, and you all didn't go and practice with another firm, आप तीनों ने डिसाइड किया कि एक साथ मिलके अपनी आर्किटेक्चरल स्पेस में TCS बन जाते हैं. पहला क्लाइंट कैसे मिला? What were the challenges? How did you convince the first client to, with no real work-ex, to trust the 3 of you to actually execute a project? And how was that overall experience?
So the first work I still remember was to install a split air conditioner in my neighbor's house. It's very awkward kind of an assignment for an architect. But I think part of our success in our journey has been not judging the assignment that we were tasked to do.
Yeah.
And I think that is a very important lesson, that when I look back at how opportunities have opened up, and some of the most pivotal opportunities, those pivotal opportunities would not have happened if we had judged the assignment that we were tasked to do. So he says, install a split air conditioner. In 1995, very few people were installing split air conditioners. And this guy was like a quality guru. And he said, how will you do it? I said, I'll get a vendor and I'll ask him to do it. I'll take 1 or 2 quotations and then figure out where the AC should be installed. He said, no, you must read the manual. You must mark the back plate on the wall, draw the drainage, draw the wires. I don't want to see any wires. It was an exceptional education for me, and we did it in the spirit of the game. Then he was so happy, he said, okay, you do my whole office. So we got into doing furniture, And then I got a little sort of courageous and I said, I can extend it to the basement. I can extend the basement. He said, how would you do it? I said, no, I'll do it. So we extended his basement, which required us to build the wall top down. And given our background in IIT, the beauty is that we always go by first principles. And that is something that has helped us grow all through. Most people learn by working for a company or they work in a project and then they learn. There are others who can learn in a classroom. There are others who can learn from a book. And then there are those who can simply learn the fundamental principles and then apply those to life. I think that's been one of our great strengths. To cut this long story short, a very small assignment of maybe 300-400 square feet was implemented very nicely. And I still remember when the roof was cast, I was very worried if it will hold. And the day it was de-shuttered, I stood under it, like that, as if my hands were holding heaven, Matlab ki ruk gayi, giri nahi. And from the first chat to reaching a point where I think as TCS we were doing 100 homes at a time. So there was not a day when a roof was not being cast at our sites. And we had a proper process, there was a bunch of engineers, there was a roster. And we've already been very process driven, very exacting in our standards. So that really helped us scale. And because this first project happened well, he asked us to do his office, and which was a large project. And then another neighbor asked us to design a 500-yard house. And I still remember we came out, Anoj and I, after making a presentation, and those guys asked us how much will be your fee.
We had no clue.
We could not conceive of a number more than 1 lakh, So we said, we'll take 1 lakh. And they said, done. And we guys came out completely in disbelief. Ki 1 lakh rupees fees milegi, We were so caked and we were like, these are struggling for 10,000-20,000 rupee jobs. We're going to make it. We actually thought we would compete with Bill Gates in 10-20 years. We were so naive. We were all of 2022. We had no clue that architecture is, after all, architecture. You're not going to become like a software giant. But that was the spirit, and that was the confidence. And
we were
I
very,
think
very aggressive also.
we were very aggressive. I think we were also fortunate that India was really opening up.
Absolutely.
And, like today, a young IITian can easily get funding, and people say that it's easy for youngsters today. I think it began in the 90s. If you were young and you were willing and you could demonstrate performance, that of course is a given. Then growth.
So we had a startup right after college. I mean, people are having startup stories now.
Yeah.
We had startup 30 years back.
Yeah.
We came out of college and
7 days after. 14 June ही था ना?
5 July को foundation.
We were so aggressive. The guy, the neighbor of Goonmeet, who made us to do his office in Yamuna he told us that do the office, and he went, and we came out. We thought, let's design the office. So me and Goonmeet and Anand were sitting. What's the design brief? What's the site? No design brief, no site. We said, no problem. We'll make an office.
Sounds like a real hustle, huh? And what I'm understanding is that the desire to give value to the client is what resulted in the project coming to you.
I think one of the big strength was we never imposed our ideas on our clients. As architect, we always felt that it is his dream. he's putting his money. As architect, as a consultant, our job is to refine his dream and execute his dream, shape his dream into reality. So for that, you have to make the client participate in your design process.
I want to come to this transition from TCS to DFI. What pushed the three of you to, up ये transition?
3 reasons, fundamentally. कुछ तो बताया अनुज ने in terms of branding.
Right.
But fundamentally, if you see, India's changed gears in the last 30-35 years on many, paths on the journey.
Yeah.
2004 was actually one such trigger point. And all our clients were essentially clients who were small-time builders who now were aspiring for gated communities, so high-rises were coming up, better commercials needed to be made, etc. The skill sets needed within our office also had to change. Most of the architects then were, I would say, about 50 to 60% were still doing handmade drawings. 30 to 40% were moving to AutoCAD. Emails had just about begun in that. So we found that within the office also, change management in any organization is a process. You can never just shut an organization and start a new organization. You can't do it financially. You can't do it in terms of the orientation of your workforce, the constitution of your workforce, all of those things. So we felt that putting our names on the company somehow did not give self-expression to the leaders within our team.
Correct.
So we've said, let's make it more corporatized, and we were already very process oriented. So we said, okay, let's not put our name on the new company. B, let us create a new team which has got a different kind of skill set. So newer people were brought in. Some people from within the organization who were willing to progress to new technologies, they said, yeah, we will migrate to AutoCAD. We will start making minutes of meeting and attending meetings differently. There is something called schematic drawings, where you actually plug in all services into a basic design drawing. Now, when you do homes, you really don't have the culture of doing it. You jump from design to what we call good for construction. इतने घर बनाए, हमको पता है कहाँ पाइपें लगानी है, कहाँ नहीं लगानी. Whereas when you go in for large projects, it's a lot more collaborative. Your structure guy tells you the framing and the technologies. Your air conditioning guy gives you technologies. Your electrical guy, plumbing guy. So you need people who are willing to go through that process. So it was a shift internally within our organization in terms of our culture, in terms of our skill sets, in terms of our tech stack. And the same change we wanted to reflect out in the world, that now TCS, which was able to handle 100 homes at a time, it's a staggering number, and deliver high quality, is also available to do large format projects. And then, of course, this people-centric approach got a formal name. It's not like we were not people-centric earlier. The first 2 employees of our organization are still our friends.
Connected.
Very few. Our office or our institution, we don't really run it like a commercial enterprise. I feel we learn it more like a family, like a learning institution. And in many ways, it's like Hotel California. You can come in, but
check in any time of the night.
Any time, but you can't leave.
Can never leave.
So people resign, they come back. We have very low attrition. But even for those who do go, most of them come back. They don't feel self-expressed outside. They feel they have a boss. Over here, most people, I mean, we are like a company of 100 bosses. It's still very much like a startup. It's more alignment to a purpose. It's more alignment to a value system, customer orientation. Those are the drivers rather than a very formal hierarchy. And
But my question to you on that would be that when you scale the business and the business is growing, you still need the structure, you still need the hierarchy. Yet you need that feeling of responsibility, ownership to also come in. Was this something that naturally came to the three of you? Was there someone who mentored you, who coached you into it, or वो होती है ना कि गलती दो गलती हो जाती तीसरे बार सीख जाते हैं वैसी कहानी थी? What was it?
I think the answer would be different for each of us. And for me, I think I've been very fortunate to have some very good mentors. Also, reading books helps a lot, especially when it comes to scaling organizations. And I think at the base of it, if one was to say, there is if you have to cause alignment in a team, because the only substitute to hierarchy is inspire, align, and deliver. Those are the three things. So fundamentally, when we began, for us, it was very important to succeed, because I think in anybody's journey as an individual, the first thing when you go out into the open world is this desire to perform and succeed for yourself.
Correct.
That fortunately for us happened very early. I still remember Anoj coming to me and saying, 3 साल हुए थे हमको शुरू में, तुझे पता है हम सक्सेसफुल आर्किटेक्ट है? मैंने कहा है, तुझे किसने बोला? वो कर्नल मोहन बोल रहे थे, अब तो आप सक्सेसफुल आर्किटेक्ट हो गए. So I mean, it was like a self-actualization milestone, and it is something which goes on throughout life. But still, I feel as architects in general, and we kind of overcame that fairly early. Once you've gone through that, you need a higher purpose. And that higher purpose can come through mentors, or it can come, to different people in different ways. For some people, the higher purpose always remains money. Luckily for all three of us, that was never the case. Not that there is any despising money, all of us love money, but I think for each of us the higher purpose has always been different, and maybe that is where the IIT background really helps. Most IITians, especially Kharagpur, we tend to be more grounded. There's a little bit of Bengal that seeps into us. And there's a little bit of idealism that also kind of soaks our personalities. So for us, the higher purpose, again, somewhere between nation building and pure architecture and team building, I think those are the three things that really work for us. And yes, we have a hierarchy, but the hierarchy is not based on who will make decisions. The hierarchy is based on who is better equipped to make decisions. So the guy who is lower down in the hierarchy is simply a younger person who's at an early point in the journey. So he doesn't feel inferior. He just feels, हाँ मुझे अपने उस बंदे से भी सीखना है, मुझे उससे सीखना है. आवाज सबकी है. So the hierarchy is there, but it's a hierarchy of learners and who are all aligned to that higher purpose.
I think what you were saying, that transition from a small office to a large,
the scalability, the scaling
during that time, which somebody, how did we manage to do it? Was there a formal formats given to us? So somebody taught us something like that. I think IIT background has taught us one thing, that we have to understand the roots of the issue, or the roots of that circumstances, understand that and resolve it, come out as a problem solver of that. So at every stage, when we were startup, 4 architects, to a 15 architect, to a 30 architect, to a 70 architect. At each stage, the setup was different. The requirement were different. The requirement to create formats like to do the drawing delivery system, or to manage the timelines, or to manage the site supervision, all the process also. That time we knew, we understood, and we evolved ourselves. That approach from the IIT, that you understand the issue, analyze it, come up with a solution. That solution might not be a great or might not be a very perfect one.
Transition for the three of you from TCS to DFI was a conscious call.
Absolutely.
And that had a big churn or change in the way you went about recruiting your team, building your team, and also your own mindset of how you looked up at projects. But what was the driver for the change? I know एक incident आपने बताई थी, but still to take a conscious call. One is that देखिए एक दो projects आ गई from a couple of clients who wanted you to do something bigger and they wanted to work with you. But somewhere you took a strategic and a conscious call that this is something you want to leave or reduce. I won't say leave, but reduce and focus on a completely different aspect of architecture. So two parts. What pushed you to change, and all three of you to go in that direction? And number two is, what was the difference in reality? Because घर के लिए client एक अलग mindset से, and वही client या commercial project कर रहा है या residential project कर रहा है, his demands and asks would be very different. So so how did that happen?
मैं बताऊं, एक चीज होती है, your gained knowledge itself can sometimes be a hindrance to attaining the right solution. Like, you've learnt about designing of homes,
right?
You go to designing a condominium or a shopping mall. If you start from that background where in your back of the mind the house design is there, you come to here designing a condominium or a shopping mall, you will fall wrong, at the wrong foot. You have to come to zero yourself, unwind yourself, you erase what you have learnt. First, understand different house, how making a house for an individual villa, or making a condominium or a group housing for community. What are the differences? What are their requirements? Why people are shifting from, what will it that people will come prefer housing than a villa? If you understand that, then start creating, architecture or designing around it. Like I tell you, people, the nature has designed human being as a person living in communities, not in isolation.
Yes.
Right? You go back, people used to live in villages, in a community. They used to feel very safe, very sound. Then people shifted to towns, right? There, in place of their villages or community living, they are plotted houses, but still they were in mohallas or colonies. Still there was some community living there. Then it happened a metropolitan, where people came here, and because of the prices of the land, rich people started living in villas. Like in South Delhi, all these plots where we are here right now, GK, 20 crore, 25 crore is the cost of a plot. Only the riches can live here. Another economical version was an apartment. Shared, if you cannot own individual things, then something which you share. So that was a compromise living. Like Silver Oak apartments in DLF or the initial apartments in Gurgaon, those were compromised living. People used to feel that having a kothi in GK is something, rather than living in an apartment in Gurgaon or Noida is a compromise. The people who were living in villas, they started feeling that they are living in isolation.
Yeah.
They're feeling loneliness, because nature has not designed them to live alone with servants only. And there are many empty nesters. Kids are there in US. Old couple, they are living here. There is a need that you have to go back to the community, go back to the roots and live there.
Very interesting. I want to stick with this point on the community living, and I think in Goonmeet ji, आपकी किताब में towards the end there's a concept also. Maybe there's a correlation between the two. Villages have traditionally been seen as where people have been moving out and going to the urban side. We are seeing a big change or I am seeing a big change with all my travel across India, that villages are no longer villages the way they used to be. There is now an influx, I think, of people back into the villages, because villages are no longer villages. Now they become towns. Towns have now become what we call tier 2 or tier 3 cities. I think tier 3 cities, and tier 3 cities are now progressing to mini metropolitan area. This concept of community becoming stronger and stronger, because 10-15 years ago it was the complete opposite. Nuclear families, और and more isolation में जा रहे थे. It's very interesting that you're saying that I see the lure of the housing colonies that are coming up across India, and also just the way villages are also now evolving. If you could shed some light into that concept, is there a correlation between these two, or I'm just putting two things together?
No, there is a clear correlation, and you see, everybody prefers to stay next to their roots. It's like a human need, and this process has got accelerated post-COVID, because a lot of migrant workers found that the cities were very unkind to them. And the village is a safe place where really nobody goes hungry. So there's enough access to food and survival level facilities. So in the first place, migration happened to cities essentially for better economic opportunities. Nobody was really happy to move to the city, but you needed better economic opportunities. And one more thing which is missing in the villages is the social sector. Social sector means education, so education for children or higher education. Social sector also means health, so access to better hospitals. Social sector also comprises sports, and then also the facilities that you need for recreation. Economy being the key driver, and that is what has led to people moving to cities, whether it's tier 2 cities or to mega metropolitan cities. But when these people come here, they find that their lives have become extremely hard and sometimes inhuman in terms of the living quarters that they have to put up with. Very often they find their families are back in home and they are here. So then the next cycle began of saving money and sending the money home. So repatriating whatever they earn back home. And then they want to build better homes in the villages, which is what we are seeing, that the quality of housing stock in villages has gone up. And then because the income is going back to the villages, not for everybody, but for a large portion, then they prefer that now the children also say that कि भाई यहाँ पे slum में रहने से तो अच्छा है गाँव में, there's cleaner air, etc. So the requirement for schools, etc., and the requirement for medicines and doctors, and even the online business has really helped, because thanks to the internet, a lot of things which were previously unavailable in tier 2 cities or unavailable in villages are now actually reaching tier 2 cities. Even something as simple as cosmetics or fashionable soaps, because once you've tasted all these things in the city, you are desiring all these facilities wherever you are. So it's a great combination of better transport facilities, better connectedness due to telephones, better homes now being available, better education, not comparable to the city, but better than what it was earlier. And I am hoping that the new India, the Amrit Kal Bharat that we really talk about, really focuses on reimagining the village. And reimagining the village in terms of the money that you need to spend is far, far lower than the money we actually spend in reimagining our cities. And sometimes I feel that the real key to India's development story lies there.
I think as tourism on the hills wala topic, I think the more tourism increases in the hills, there would be economic opportunity, jobs being created.
Yes.
For those people. They don't have to migrate too far from the village.
True.
But then that has another hindsight to it. The more tourism means more construction happening. More construction in India, our construction practices aren't very sustainable.
Yeah.
I've been going to my friend's place. He runs a very lovely homestay. He has 500 acres of tea garden in Dharamshala, in Palampur specifically. And he shifted there in 2015-16. They built a very nice 6-room, completely mud ke walls, slate say, everything natural. And the first year, a bunch of us from school were his first guinea pigs. The first year, he'd not even installed air conditioners because he said that in the summers, with the construction that we have done and all the material that they used and everything, he said the temperature in the evening comes down to 17-18 degrees. In the day, it is enough insulation that air conditioning is not required. 2 years later, he had to install air conditioning because the temperature went up. And abhi recently, I went to his place. From the airport to his property, every single square inch of land had construction going on. Literally. अगर वो एक खाई भी था ना, उसमें भी किसी ने अपनी बिल्डिंग खड़ी कर ली थी. So then, what's your take on this? What do I say? The pull and push of sustainability with economic development.
So, see, there always will be a yin-yang situation. So with development will come the ugly side of development in terms of non-sustainable construction practices. And I think this is where the role of well-informed architects and companies like yours comes in, to educate ourselves and raise our own consciousness, so we only pursue sustainable construction practices. And I'm happy to hear a word like insulation, for instance, which could be as low a component of cost as, say, 0.1% or 0.2% of a project cost, And yet in India, insulation is never part of any project budget. So if we can look at using local materials, if we can look at using local craftsmanship and look at energy consumption, not the way Leeds looks at it, but at the very root by investing, let's say, in insulation, so your temperature that you need to handle itself, the difference is less. So the more we can build using natural materials, using local craftsmanship, that's when the benefit of this development will accrue to the local people, and then it will not at all damage. So, like you mentioned, Palanpur, I visited a village near Pathankot. Somebody's bought 5 acres to develop a hospitality business. And on that plot sat an old house made of mitti ki bricks, mitti ka plaster, wrought timber, which is just sawn without, being sanded, and a thatch roof. And the guy says, Ji, first thing, asi enu ta deange, which in Punjabi means we'll just demolish this, and then we'll build afresh. I said, no, this is the very thing we don't have to demolish, because this is the most sustainable thing that we are inheriting. And even if we were to rebuild, let's rebuild using mud stabilized blocks, do mud plaster, use timber, use thatch. And the people who are going to come here to enjoy Punjabi food, let them actually enjoy a true experience of a village. So it will take that courage for the architect to convince his client. And I think people are actually looking forward to new experiences. Airbnb, for instance, has shown that hospitality is now more about rejuvenating experiences, different experiences than, So I feel that is the way forward. And at some level, we have to control density. I think one of the issues with growth in India is that when something becomes successful, everybody, jumps into the bandwagon. That is something we'll solve in due course.
So, Anandji, you were involved with one of the most iconic projects of India, not only Delhi but of India, I would say, was the Select City Walk, the Mall Wala project. So, do you want to talk about, how did you all get that project and what's been the design philosophy around that?
I think there is a beautiful and interesting story to how we got that project all by itself. We were doing some retail projects for developers, Omax, one of them, and Select City Walk came along. It was a piece of land that people had bought, the promoters had bought, Mr. Sharma and Mr. Yogaraj Arora, in a DDA auction. And at that time, it was a landmark deal all by itself. And little did we know that we would end up eventually being responsible for designing it and bringing it to its reality. It was a competition, and we were actually greenhorns. And we hadn't done many malls. In fact, nobody had done many malls, not just us. We competed with stalwarts. And like everything else that Anoj spoke about and Goonmeet spoke about, whenever we approached a new kind of a project, bulk of our preparation has come from learning about how to do it, right? So a lot of research went, a lot of site visits went. We visited some operational malls here, some operational malls overseas. And finally, we realized that there is a lot of learning that can go into a design, but finally the design has to come from inside, right? There was a template that we had, there was a particular master plan that was there, and there was a clear chasm, a clear disconnect between the way master plan had been done almost 15 to 20 years ago and between the aspirations of a shopping mall then. So we really got into the act of trying to see what can work, which satisfies the original stipulated master plan, which satisfies the needs of a shopping mall the way it should be done. The shopping malls at that time in Kuala Lumpur and Singapore had already started doing roaringly well. So a lot of inspiration came from there. Similar set of clients, similar set of demographics, and similar state of overall scale. So pushing the envelope, cliched word, but I think we really pushed the envelope with Select City Walk. This was the first time that there was a clear paradigm shift in the way retail centers were envisaged, right? The concept of staying invested in a retail destination, I think Select is a pioneer in that.
So DFI has had a very interesting journey, right? Started off very small, hustling for every single small little project. फिर वो करते करते residential में at one time to have more than 100 residential projects happening, and then you had a I won't say second, there was a third phase which started off where you all moved out of residential more into nation building, community building, doing projects that were solving much larger problems and solving the need of one family. What's next for DFI? Where is DFI going from here now?
Very interesting.
I feel that the more we build, the more we damage. And therefore, if we have to leave a better world for our children and our grandchildren, we need to build in a manner which is regenerative. Because we don't have the option now of building in a manner which does less damage, because enough damage has already been done.
Yeah, and we have to also take care of the population needs and the economic needs, etc.
So for me, I think we need to do everything to learn how to build in a regenerative way. And one of the most important things for that is to learn to decreate. As architects, we get an injection called creative. So ultimately, we need an architecture and an architect that understands create and decreate. And I think the future of DFI lies in solving that mystery. We'll maybe successful 10%, 30%, 90%. We'll have to learn, we'll have to collaborate. It also has to be a more open source learning. We started with Design Forum International with a nice aspirational journey. The word forum has played, it's still yet to play out its full potential. And I think we've been collaborative so far. I think in the future, it is going to be open source, where we will allow a botanist to guide us, as opposed to just an MEP consultant.
Very interesting.
And we'll allow an artist to guide us, as opposed to just a structural consultant. And we'll allow a musician to guide us. And I think in that open source, and we are well placed to do it because we are no longer at the hustle stage. We're not insecure. We're not saying, "Ye project to main karunga." So we can actually bring together 20 friends and say, "Cham, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm not sure. What is it? You're more experienced than me. Why don't you advise me?" And I think that position of strength and that which...
Yeah, I think to collaborate and then draw in as many people who are the experts, that's the only way that's going to happen. That's a very, very interesting. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a wonderful conversation with the three of you.
Thank you so much for...
From what I learned and heard today was that architecture is something that the three of you are extremely passionate about. It's at the heart of what you do, but it's also a people-first approach that the three of you have taken to build DFI into what it is today. And I've had an amazing time. I've learned so much on just the way you all have gone about building your business. And thank you for being as honest and as open as you have been.
And I would like to thank you for being so intent in listening. I've yet to meet a person who's so pleasing, pleasant, and so keen to listen. You're a great person.
No, I think the time just flew by.
I wish we had more time and we could have carried on this conversation. I love learning. The other thing I really resonated with all three of you, and that's one of the things that got in my head, is that, even if you have to learn and unlearn and learn and unlearn and learn and unlearn.
That's how life is.
That's how life is, and that's what keeps you going ahead. I don't think the 30-year-old version of yourselves would have ever imagined that three guys where the professor was saying कि इनको देखो ये college से निकले नहीं है अपने धंधा start करना चाहते हैं.
We started with 1,500 rupees.
Yeah.
तीनों ने 500 रुपए डाले थे. वहाँ से कंपनी शुरू की थी.
That's an amazing story, and thank you for this lovely conversation today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.